year was 1928. Herbert Hoover was running for president, and the stock market was at an all-time high. Penicillin had just been discovered. Amelia Earhart became the first woman to fly across the Atlantic, and Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig led the Yankees to win the World Series. Americans in 1928 were first introduced to double bubble gum, sliced bread, and the Ford Model A automobile, which could be purchased for a mere $385. Mr. Rogers, Shirley Temple, Walter Mondale, and Vidal Sassoon were all born in 1928. In the arts, movies began to have sound, and the MGM Lion roared for the first time. 1928 also saw the debut of Mickey Mouse in Steamboat Willie, and the launch of the world's first television station. Orlando, Florida was a small town of only 26,000 people. In 1928, the Orlando Municipal Airport began operations, and directly in its flight path was the newly organized Delaney Street Baptist Church, with 36 charter members. In the succeeding 90 years, the church has been a spiritual home to thousands of Orlandoans, growing from a single meeting house to a campus encompassing 1.5 city blocks in the Soto district. Orlando had seen its population triple in the 1920s, and the First Baptist Church responded by establishing missions around the city. The Reverend T.E. Waldrop helped begin one such mission in South Orlando in 1923, which would later become the Delaney Street Baptist Church. This new church has since continued this practice of multiplication by starting 9 more churches in the area. Throughout its 90-year history, Delaney Street Baptist Church has actively looked for ways to serve the community with activities and ministries such as Vacation Bible School, an early learning center, youth camps, jail ministry, deaf ministry, special education ministry, food and clothing for the needy, the October Community Fall Festival, and a live nativity. Under its current pastor, Troy Peoples, Delaney Street Baptist Church looks to continue its positive impact on Orlando by providing for the spiritual and physical needs of the surrounding area, all to make Jesus Christ even more famous. In celebration of this 90-year milestone, members of the Delaney Church family gathered at various times to reminisce about the blessing that Delaney has been in their lives and dream about what God has planned for the future. We now join these conversations, hosted by Pastor Troy.
Well, this morning, as we come together to celebrate the 90th anniversary of Delaney Street Baptist Church, we've come together to share some of our memories, some of the things that have really touched our hearts, the way that God has blessed our family. As you look back in the time that you came to Delaney Street Baptist Church for the very first time, who was it that you met? Who was the one that met you, the first person that you met, maybe that took you around, introduced you to the pastor, showed you where your Sunday school class was, and perhaps how they made an impact in your life?
My first memory of a teacher, a Sunday school teacher, Minnie DeBow, she came to our door when she was taking a survey of Delaney Street Baptist Church. She invited me and my family to the church, and next Sunday she was at my door to pick me up for Sunday school, and that Sunday I came and then I kept on coming every day since then. I've been here all these years, and I really enjoyed my church here.
The first person that Jeff and I met at Delaney Street was Mike Story, and we were coming for an interview with the personnel committee, and I was kind of nervous and excited and everything. We parked the car next to that tall grass, and I'm getting out of the car and just about tripped. There was Mike standing at the door waiting for us. I thought, that's a really great first impression. But we got there, he hugged us and put us right at ease, and I sure do miss him.
It was September of 1961. I was to start first grade at a new school, Pershing Elementary. However, the school wasn't open yet for students. Delaney Street Baptist Church opened its doors to the community and allowed Orange County school systems to come in and to teach and to hold classes in their Sunday school rooms. I spent the first 3 months of my first grade year here at Delaney Street. I still remember my classroom. I was told it's the special education area. You walk in the front door. My room was the first door to the left. I remember this so well because I spent Monday through Friday in this room for school, then back on Sunday for Sunday school.
My first memory of coming to this church, and the first person I met was our music minister. At the time it was Candy and Daryl, and they had invited all of us from the audience to come and join the choir and sing along. And that afternoon we did have dinner on the grounds. I didn't know that was what I was coming to. And just throughout the years, the music ministry has really spoke to me here.
I had to walk to church. I was on Page Avenue. Earl had a reserve meeting. And so when I came here by myself, newly married, Jack Bell greeted me at the door. He was a deacon, made me feel right at home. And the next Sunday, Earl came. And the third Sunday we joined. Never went to another church except Delaney because we just felt so at home.
My first memory is being in Francis Jensen's preschool Sunday school class. We met right over here in the corner building, and I have lifelong friends. I left after college, but still enjoy my bestie over here, and just can't imagine growing up any other place.
My first memory is the little old house that sat somewhere over there on Cayley, I think. It was just a little old wooden building, and my first Sunday school teacher that I remember, his name was Smitty Smith.
We enjoyed this church when it was an old wooden church back then. They moved it to the parking lot over there in front of the office over there, and then when they built this sanctuary here. And I've seen a lot of changes in this since 1946.
Reverend Fagan was preaching, and we enjoyed that. We filled out the typical visitor's card. And Tuesday night, 2 men showed up at our doorstep, Neil Thompson and Jim Brown.
The first person I actually met was Jim Pribble when my brother and I were coming in the youth here at Delaney. He actually came to our house after we visited on a Sunday. Stopped by on a Wednesday to pick both of us up to bring us here for the youth activity that was going on for Bible study.
My shirt stuck to the back of the wood because the wood was so sticky from all the years of people putting their hands on it. And when you got back home, you had this mark on the back of your shirt where the wood from the pew was still there.
We were just coming out from in the valley of losing our second son. And it turned out that Reverend Jim Wilson had recently lost a son also.
Who was the first person to greet us and love us but Phyllis Beck? She just was so loving and kind and accepting, and it just made me want to keep coming back.
We visited here on Easter Sunday, 1963. And the church was packed. We sat in the aisle in folding chairs. Believe it or not, I was about 27, and James was about 28. And I thought at first there were quite a few elderly people here then, but I thought, oh, they are so nice. And now we are older than any elderly people were. So I guess that's it.
Who in our church family has made a tremendous impact in your life? Perhaps it was a Sunday school teacher, maybe a close friend that you have developed a friendship with as you have been here.
Frances Jensen was a great inspiration to me. She helped me when I learned to be a teacher. She was such a diligent person is to try to help you, and she was always there each Sunday morning, and that's what I needed.
I was blessed with becoming friends with Gene Lindsay right when I got here. I started out as a custodian here, and Gene and I hooked up as friends and as prayer partners, and we're still going. Gene is the real deal.
I ended up being one of the sound and media tech people there at the church. I was kind of raised up in it. My dad, Chuck, and his best friend Russ McCumber, my second dad. I call him Daddy Mac. Learned everything from them.
I would say what impacted my family the most was when members of the church came and asked my husband to come. And then after that, we took an Experiencing God class together. And my husband and I, it was a couples class, and the teachers were Candy and Daryl at the time. And that just changed our whole marriage.
Ruth Mays was my Sunday school teacher. And she was the sweetest, loveliest Christian woman that I had ever met. And I learned so much about the Bible.
So as you look back in the church history and the time that you've been here, and I know that everybody has been here different lengths of time, but maybe what are some of the spiritual milestones that you have encountered here at Delaney Street Baptist Church?
When my husband surrendered to the ministry here in this church under Rudy Fagan's ministry, Rudy also married us, and I was also baptized by Brother Rawls.
Seeing our older two children being baptized. Pastor Wheaton when he was here, and then our youngest daughter Hannah when Pastor Troy baptized her.
We built a family around this church. My parents were married in this church. My two sisters, myself, and my other one brother was married in this church. So this church has been very instrumental in helping to build our family, and that's a really precious thing.
I'm very thankful for the people who volunteered to help me take care of Elizabeth, help us take care of Elizabeth. And she's been a real blessing to us, and this church has been a real blessing.
I never had any doubts that Delaney was a giving church and a close family. But the way the church members gathered around when we took Elizabeth on and then adopted her a year later, if we hadn't seen that support from the church, and if maybe the 20 years before that we hadn't seen God working in our lives and felt that this was God's will, I don't think we could have taken on that chore at that time. It was never a chore, though. It was a blessing. God blessed us, and I think God blessed this church through that.
I did not have a saving faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, and I didn't know it until I came here. And Brother Fagan was preaching, and I began to think, he would ask the question, do you know that you're saved? And that if you died today, you'd go to heaven. I had already joined the church previous to this, and before I was actually saved. And so I had to kind of say, all right, I'm going to stand in front of the church and say I got it all wrong. I got the church membership ahead of the salvation experience, but I got it right, finally.
So now I'd like give you the opportunity to maybe just brag on your Sunday school class, maybe your Sunday school department, your teacher, maybe your care group leaders, just the way that Sunday school, the discipleship groups, maybe have really just blessed your life. Could you share some things along those lines?
Several years ago, Mary Livingston invited me to participate in a women's Bible study, and that it has been such a blessing. I did not know what I was missing. I had never done any in-depth Bible study, but I look forward to these. Twice a year we do this. We learn so much and share and get closer to each other, and I'm just thankful to Mary for reaching out to me and involving me in all these Bible studies over the years.
I remember most of my scripture memory came from GAs, learning about missionaries, the books of the Bible, most of those things that we learned as children, and Vacation Bible School too. I still, the things that I learned back in those days are the things that I can actually remember now.
Pat Kropp is one of the better teachers that I have ever been under. She truly knows God, and she knows the Bible.
I really enjoy working with Pastor Jeff as our director for the music program, music minister here at the church, doing handbells and being on praise team with LJ and Drew and Lynn and my sister Renee. And we all have a a really good time, just worshiping and praising God. My wife says, "Why do you sing all the time?" I said, "Jesus put a song in my heart." So there you go.
We have a special ed ministry, which not many churches anymore have, and we have the ability to teach and reach not just children, which seems to be the focus because of the school system, but we have adults like Mike and others that participate. Gives an outlet for participating, for sharing, for learning God's Word, and hopefully taking back to group homes and workshops and places they get the chance to minister and share with others.
When the teachers came up, I'd mark them. Not really, but making out like I was marking them. And I said, now, if when you're late, it's going to show up. And they begin to be more on time, and I thought that's a good idea.
I invited Ruth May to be the teacher. She had taught at Delaney Street for years and years. And she's up in heaven right now, praising God. And so Ruth said, "Yes, Lily, I'll teach." And so I said, "Well, I will open my home. I'll have coffee and tea ready for everybody." And Ruth and I said, "Well, we can fix lunch for everybody." And we did.
In the life of the church has many times done mission trips, served in the community. Just share a little testimony about how God has worked through Delaney Street Baptist Church in missions and or ministry, whether it's in the local or the state or perhaps even the national or international level.
I think the biggest impact was when they took us inside the prison here, and we rang bells inside the prison, and we were all locked down with all the prisoners, and that was really a humbling experience, nerve-wracking one at the same time. But the fact that we took that into our community, and it was our ministry here that took us outside of our comfort zone and into those walls to share the gospel.
Hurricane Hugo hit Charleston, South Carolina, and we gathered supplies here, loaded up a big truck, and some of our men took those supplies to those in need up there.
I enjoyed working for about 10 years with Walk Through Bethlehem. It's not, we saw it at this church as a mission, but as an outreach to our community. So we didn't go far and wide for that, but we invited people in.
One year we had a homeless boy that come from Paramore over there, and the coach would say, "Some of these boys had the best meal they've had all week," that we fed them on Friday. And that boy got to be a scholarship and went to Vanderbilt University, and he was the captain of the Vanderbilt team one year. So he had a word of God inspired in him through our church.
We learned that God has gifted us all and that we must be a disciple instead of just sitting and listening to the pastor and the minister of music share their gifts.
So we've talked a little bit about what Delaney Street Baptist Church has meant to us in the past, the way we've been involved in ministry and missions in the past. But I'd like for us to focus just a few minutes on what God is doing in our midst even right now.
I've seen, since I've been here, the VBS ministry grow and grow, and we have quite a reputation in this neighborhood because of the VBS.
Ability to record and to be live streaming during our services for those that cannot be here in the church but want to hear and grow through all the text messages that we get about the activities that are going on that keeps us on schedule and on task, and the encouragement that we get through those text messages as well as through the Facebook page and all of the technology that we're using.
Our handbell choir through the church has opportunities to go into the community and play handbells, and we spread the gospel with that music. We have gone to Light Up Soto for the last 2 years, which is right downtown here. And we've also gone to several nursing homes where we can play and spread the gospel there.
So we know that the last 90 years have been a tremendous 90 years. I wonder if you could just maybe share your heart and maybe what you would see as your vision for Delaney Street Baptist Church as we look to the future.
as a church and even community where people can learn more about depression and be able to help people who experience that. Believe it or not, there is still quite a stigma.
I just want to put in a plug for our prayer group meetings. We have a prayer group meeting at Wednesdays in the prayer room, 10 o'clock. Saturdays, what we usually be doing is like we have an hour of prayer, 9 to 10 in the prayer room. I don't think we can pray enough, so I'm just putting that in.
For a church to be able to remain strong in the world today where it's not often popular to be a Christian or to say there is one way to heaven and that is through Jesus Christ. It's difficult to love people where they are and how they are, but I feel like Delaney Street has always done that.
How would you describe Delaney Street Baptist Church to someone who has never been inside the building? How would you describe Delaney Street Baptist Church?
I'll tell you how I feel about this church. This place is a refuge, a sanctuary, a port in the storm.
We have a church that preaches the gospel. And I thank God for that.
This church is a good training ground for the next generation, the youth department and the children's department.
Yeah. I think of Delaney as a great fellowship. There's love, there's Christ-like concern for one another. You're never alone. There's always someone there to look out for you and take care of you.
I brought a lady to church last Sunday that had not been in church in 20-some years, and I really am glad everyone made her feel welcome, and I think she'll be back tomorrow.
This church is a wonderful place to raise a family. We raised our family here, and it's our family has grown in Christian life, and we appreciate this church for that.
I think people see in our church a willingness to help those around them.
I've got too much time and money invested in this church to think about going somewhere else.
This is not easy to say, but it was exactly 1 year ago today that my 3 kids and I stood around my wife when she took her last breath. And I appreciate the support and encouragement that the church has been.
The love that we have felt and the compassion in the situations that we have seen in our lives with the difficulties is what brought us back and keeps us coming back.